Well, hello, ladies, gentlemen, and whoever or whatever you identify as, and welcome to a new live stream. 3 minutes early. Do apologise. Actually turned up early for a change. I do have a record for turning up late. Right then, let's get straight to it. I'm going to introduce my guest. Ladies and gentlemen, it is John the White. Hello, John.
Hello, Gobby. Hi,
How you
how
doing?
you doing? Right, lovely. It's all working.
Yes,
Brilliant.
it
This is what I
seems
like
to
to
be on.
see.
Yeah, so far so good.
Right, right. That's half of battle one.
Yeah, we've started. Let's get going.
Uh, okay, well, being as you said, introduced me. I better introduce myself a bit. And we've got some things we need to get straight right at the top of this live stream. This live stream
Amen.
is out for truth and proof of anti-white bias in Doctor Who. So neither you or me are stupid people,
No.
and we know what this fandom is like.
Mm-hmm.
So simply because we are making a live stream on the topic of anti-whiteness, we know that there's a good chance that we're going to get a fair bit of shit thrown our way for it. So I'd
Just a
like to
bit.
start right at the beginning by
Right.
pointing out that words matter. So this title is The Truth and Proof of Anti-White Bias. Not an anti-white conspiracy, not everyone in the BBC is out to get whitey, but a
Yeah.
bias. And a bias can be something which can be a real problem, but the people who are responsible for perpetrating that bias actually are unaware of what they are doing. And
Yeah.
it's certainly in terms of the vast amount of people who are anyway attached to the BBC, that describes them. So I mean, we aren't going to be showing secret recordings from inside BBC Illuminati headquarters of their evil to get rid of Whitey. That's not what it is. But what we are going to talk about is the evidence.
Yep.
And the evidence isn't our evidence. The evidence is their words, their documents, their policies, and the inevitable, logical, rational consequence. Not even saying that anti white bias is a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who very passionately and legitimately make the case why it is necessary for our multiracial society to have an anti-white bias in order to increase social cohesion or whatever other reason they want to come up with. So we're not even saying it's a bad thing. We're just saying it exists.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Absolutely.
you want to talk about um, Doctor Who in the context of whiteness, and we're going to see that includes whiteness, maleness, and straightness because it's all part of the same phenomena. If you want to talk about Doctor Who in terms of how the character was from 1963 to 2017 compared to how the character is in 2018 to now and into the future, but you have to be able to talk about the truth, and the
Mm-hmm.
truth is the history of what's happened in the last several years.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, Now, I'm also going to talk about myself, John the White. Now, our, our friends on Twitter have given me a lovely time at
Hmm.
certain times, and I don't mind saying straight out that I have very effectively leaned on certain necks with a legal boot in order to stop complete morons calling me a white supremacist. Not that, I mean, what idiots say is not so important, but there are times it's got too much, and I've had to go look, and these people have had to put their hands up and go, actually, we haven't got a shred of proof that you are in any way a white supremacist, John, because the fact is, John White is my name.
Oh no.
That is
Shock horror.
shocker. Yes, I am one of the 144,000 plus people with the surname White in the United Kingdom. In fact, next to Smith, it's pretty high up there
Mm.
as a common name. which is also explains the other bit, because I've always been somebody who's not been afraid to post as myself on social media. Like I've never had a screen name.
Yeah.
Like I've never been the Marveloso Wizard, you know, whatever, right? So I was John White on internet forum boards for many years. And you know, I was often administrator of some of the toughest places on the internet, you know. So I mean, I would then use the avatar of Gandalf, because you know I was running, you know, boards like you wouldn't believe how bad these boards were in terms of behaviour. You know, you had to moderate these. And he's sparing the rod, right? So
No,
you know,
exactly.
I had an aspect of authority. So I started to use the wizard Gandalf. So I therefore, as Gandalf is associated with Gandalf the White, I began to be associated as John White.
There you go.
And then when I went onto social media, in particular, literally Facebook and then Twitter, I'm back in the world where suddenly everybody's using the real names. And I like John White 5255, you know. So just being found then becomes an issue. So at that point,
Exactly.
I made my name slightly more exciting
Put the in it.
by putting the in it. Yes, there you go. There you go. There you go. And then after my Gandalf phase came to an end, I mean, I stuck with it for a long time. But then I had a lion phase, you know, sort of spacey lion phase. So here we are with a spacey lion avatar tonight. For the notorious, not racist, you stupid bastards, John White, who's now going to talk about the truth and proof of anti-white bias in Doctor Who. And, you know, I don't want to speak for you, Gobby, but I'm pretty damn sure that any idiot who would think that there's any racist element in your body, you know, I mean, what would you say to them? It's beyond a farce.
It's beyond the thing is, I'm nowhere near racist at all. I actually find racism deeply offensive.
Which it is.
Which
and it's just utterly stupid.
It's
every level.
Exactly. It's done by people who basically haven't got a brain. Let's be brutally honest. If that's all you can do, then you're not clever.
It's
genuinely
low mentality stuff. Yes,
exactly. It's the common denominator of people who live in the gutter. Basically, it's as simple as that. As far as I'm concerned, any case. I've put
we know. There we go. Look.
Yeah.
If anyone can't get it from that. But there is one crucial difference which we both share, which isn't held by the people who make Doctor Who. And that is how we view anti-racism.
Yep.
Because we are both advocates of the quality of a man's character, not the quality of his skin. We believe in equality in the law. We believe in equality of opportunity.
Exactly.
But that is very different to a particular vision of what is now known as progressive identity politics. Very different indeed.
Yeah.
And that is why our vision of non-racism is in fact taken as an enemy by these other forces, which we're going to get into all of that.
Yeah.
So
you know, you're right. Absolutely
if I see any criticism online of this podcast, this live stream, if I see anyone saying anything retarded, then they simply prove that they haven't listened to the live stream.
No, exactly.
People start at the beginning of things. I mean, even if you give up on stuff, you know you're still going to take in what you hear in the first 5 minutes.
Yep.
So if people haven't got this message loud and clear right from the start, then okay, well, we're not dealing with serious people. But
exactly.
what we do want is for there to be genuine debate informed by facts and reason in the Doctor Who fandom, because in part, the reason we're making this live stream is because of the catalyst of the casting of Ncuti Gatwa. Ncuti Gatwa. Yeah, because I'm all for it, you're all for it.
Yep,
in terms of the casting of a black man is not controversial to us.
No, not to us, no.
And I can't speak for you, but in terms of a female doctor, I was for it until I saw it.
Well, yeah, yeah. That's. I mean, the
That's where
thing
the
is,
problem started. It wasn't for concept, and I certainly wasn't slamming the idea of Jodie Whittaker. I wasn't particularly wowed by the casting. I thought, well, I'll just wait and see.
yeah,
I mean, bizarrely enough, because of course, I've spent a bit of time talking about Doctor Who online over the last 3 years now.
yeah,
Before then, I didn't talk about Doctor Who online at all. I just enjoyed Doctor Who.
yeah.
I enjoyed my classic DVDs.
Absolutely.
And maybe I read. It's funny because I feel I opine on so many subjects, right? But I would read Gallifrey Base or something. I'd read what people were saying. I never really felt the need to have my own input on something which was made up.
Indeed.
I was just happy to read the fan opinion and stuff, but I didn't feel the need to particularly engage. It wasn't until after Whittaker's first season really clearly needed criticising, and then I didn't even start reading the online discussion until the end of series 11. But then when I started to, and then I saw the horrendous cyberbullying that was happening.
Oh, it was disgusting.
From then on, I started to discuss Doctor Who more and more, and I've had my impacts, and I've also, been a figure of hate to some, which is ridiculous because I wouldn't even know where to start. As if I give a damn about somebody else's opinion about television program. It just, I mean, whatever, dude. Did you like it? Well, I liked it. I didn't like it. You liked it, whatever. Oh no, you're attacking me, your violence and your negative view.
Oh no, leave me alone, please, God. It's all your fault.
Everybody gathered here knows what fandom is like, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not getting any better. It's not getting any better, has it? Let's be honest. Even with Shooty's appointment, in fact, it's just got as bad as it has been before. It's just.
I think the thing is, we didn't panic, did we? We didn't. Oh no, my God, what's going on? I mean, some people did react strongly, and some people were highly disappointed that it wasn't going to go back to a white male lead.
Yeah,
but that was because they wanted to know that the show was going to be saved, and to them, getting back to what was good about the show meant getting back to a traditional Doctor. And that's then started that off, and then you hear the reactions, and then of course we had the Rose announcement and the trans element to it all came in and so on, and we just saw people who kind of knew in their gut that there was just something wrong. But they didn't have the necessary information, the necessary coordinates to know, to articulate, to prove that what they felt was wrong was actually based on something real. And that's what we're going to give people tonight. We're going to give people the information, the evidence for them to go and use as they see fit to make their best arguments for whatever argument they wish to make. Whether they like the new casting of Nakuti, whether they don't, whether they think the show has got a chance of a future, whether they think it's already too late, whoever, whatever, we can at least proceed on the facts. And what I would hope most of all is that the supporters of wokeness in general in the Doctor Who fandom find the guts to at least say, yes, there is an anti-white bias, and we believe it's for a good reason, and make that argument. Have the guts to make that argument, and otherwise, what we risk happening in terms of the toxicity that could erupt in this fandom if we divide down the lines of anybody who doesn't like it is a racist. It's going to be what happened with Jodie Whittaker, but so much worse.
Sadly, you're right. I think you're right there. It would be.
And so, if we didn't do this, to me at least, it would feel like leaving people completely undefended.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't feel reasonable. It doesn't feel fair.
No, it doesn't.
So that's why we're going to do something about it. I think we're about ready to get stuck in. What about your side of it, Gobby? You ready?
Yeah, well, as ready as I can be.
What about you, chat? Is chat ready?
Is the chat ready for this?
See if I can see any scrolling of people talking in chat. And the other thing, chat, if you're liking this, tell your mates, get to come and join in, because if we can have a busy chat, that's great. And you know, we may be able to have a much better live stream than otherwise. So do tell people this is going on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your first live stream, isn't it, Gobby?
My first live stream as a host. Yes,
As a host, right?
As a host. I have been on live streams as guests.
So this is a double first premiere on YouTube, but you don't get one of those every night.
No, you certainly don't. So now, instead of just sitting there and enjoying the conversation and joining in, I've got to press buttons and stuff.
Right, well, look, we're going to start with Exhibit A. Can we have the 2011 diversity policy from the BBC, please?
That link that should be scrolling across the bottom now. If you go there, that's the best one. I can't get it to go any better than that, unfortunately, because my laptop is well, I think it runs on Steam. Let's be brutally honest.
Okay. So can we view it? Can we get it to show up so we can look at it?
If you give me a couple of seconds, I'll see what I can do.
Right.
Just bear with me a moment.
Push buttons on your time rotor.
Yeah, I'll try and do something right.
Obviously, if we could show it to people, that's the ideal. We want to be able to show it.
Give me a few seconds, and I'll see what I can pull up. Hold on a second. Right, then, go over there.
Time Prophet has shared it on Twitter, which is excellent. He might have to disappear as soon as his tea is nearly ready.
Oh no, his tea's almost ready. Well, you can't not do your tea.
You can't listen and eat at the same time. Who manages that? Yeah.
No, that's far too much multitasking for me, mate. Right then, let's see if I can bring it up. So I've got to find it. I will get there in the end. Come on. Talk amongst yourselves, ladies and gentlemen.
This is the organic reality of YouTubing.
Yeah, it's like, please trying to find something quickly. Right, hold on. It's all scrolling up.
He's going to watch a movie. I don't blame him.
Right. Well, yeah.
Wait, what's he going to watch, though? He hasn't told us.
Oh, no, yeah. Tell us the movie.
I think we might have to do that. Hello, Vidget, by the way, has just suggested we just put the link in the chat and people will have to open it themselves. I could talk about it anyway.
Yeah, and I'll copy
the. Have to do it that way.
Over. Yes, no problem at all. I'll get the link in there as quick as I can. So we should continue to talk whilst I tap away and get the link up.
I'm going to open it up my end so I can see it. That'd be a good idea.
Right, I'm tapping away on my ancient keyboard. There we go. I'm not like all this typing, laugh.
Yeah.
Right then, I will get there in a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the delay. Why are they always so long when you need to type them? And that should be the link. Up it goes. There you go. That should be the link.
I should have it in front of my eyes too. Let's have a look. What's going on? Yes.
Just an edit. Yeah. There's an edit where it says a question mark. Don't ignore the question mark. Put a /. Because that's right. Yeah. No worries. Well,
it's gone back to Twitter. That's not work. That link. Yeah. Never mind. Look, I'll just have to talk about the damn thing, and people have to look at it later, because that's what we're at. Okay, so the first thing is that this document, the 2011 diversity policy, is just absolutely fundamental to everything that has happened, both to Doctor Who and everything that the BBC does.
Yeah.
And the reason is that in 2011, the BBC decided that it was okay to discriminate for good reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
And the reason that the BBC justified doing that, in fact, the text at the very top of the 2011 diversity strategy It talks about the law, the change in the law, because in 2010 the Equality Act was passed,
Yep.
and this was actually the last great achievement of New Labour. It was
Hmm.
Gordon Brown's last major piece of legislation, and the Labour Party was elected in 2005 on a couple of very important promises, one of which was to pass an Equality Act, the other of which was to hold a referendum on joining the European Union. Only one of those promises was kept. But the Equality Act was a very important piece of legislation because for the first time it created the need for there to be equality in all aspects of public life that matched the equality across society.
Yeah.
And the BBC took this upon themselves as their holy mission ordained from God above. Because unique amongst all the media class, the media establishment, the BBC is, of course, fully funded from a forced taxation with menace of prison over anybody in Britain who owns the equipment to watch their broadcasts.
Yeah.
And that means that the BBC can spend money for the purpose of a political objective like nobody else can, because other organizations like ITV have to attend to the commercial bottom line first, whereas the BBC can just go all out,
Yeah.
and the only thing to stop it is really what it thinks it can get away with.
Exactly.
So I've seen so much discussion in the Doctor Who fandom where the idea that the BBC deliberately hires according to a diversity agenda is laughed at. And it's treated as just something which is just so ridiculous. And it's just some desperate theory which is talked about by people who are so sad and lonely and so empty inside that they just don't think that anyone black can be talented.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen those sort of comments in Doctor Who fandom, and I'm thinking of I don't want to get into dominating YouTubers, but God, you must be able to know who I'm thinking about. I mean, to whichever everything is racist,
Everything's
and
racist, yeah.
but I want to actually. I will mention one person, which I want to talk about what happened to Chris, otherwise known as Balstrek.
Yeah.
And I've certainly got different views from Balstrek in certain areas, but you see, the thing is, we are adults. So we can
Exactly.
have differences of opinion without having to actually be intolerant towards each other. But when it came to two other YouTubers, and I will name them, JXE and Mauler, doing a
Yeah.
4-hour live stream talking about, is Balstrek racist? Because Balstrek keeps talking about the diversity agenda at the BBC, when neither of them were able to simply recognise that the policy exists and is at the heart of everything the BBC does and has been for 11 years.
Yeah.
And when that isn't the foundation of the discussion, then it's no wonder that it's lost its space, is it?
Exactly. Oh, just by the way, I've got the
and
link up. I've got the link up now. It's on the screen to what we're doing. The
brilliant,
diversity reports. There you go.
And let's see. I'll just have a quick check of that. See, how's that one going? Not found. They're not giving us a fun time, are they?
No, they're
Okay.
really not.
We're succeeding despite, which is the kind of guide we are.
Exactly.
Because we're doing all right here. But that 4-hour live stream, and actually I did make a hell of a fuss, and I did what I don't very often do, which is I stepped on. I won't put it that way. I called JX out a little bit, and he got a bit hot under the collar until I insisted that he actually talked to Balstrek, not at him.
Yes, exactly.
And I did manage to make a live stream happen. Now, Whether it made everybody happy is another thing, but it at
yeah.
least was better than two sides just talking at each other in the dark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And as well as the fact that this is the BBC continuing resistance after the fall of Labour, this policy. It's grown and grown and grown to the point where today you've got June Sarpong was appointed the head of BBC Diversity in 2019. I believe she's just recently resigned, but somebody else has not been appointed yet.
Yeah, she left.
But she was getting, was it in the region of 180,000 a year for a 3-day week?
Yeah, which I had that job.
That's double Boris Johnson's salary.
Exactly.
So privilege, wow. Let's look at the numbers. But also the BBC has ring fenced for the period of the latest report £100 million just for ensuring the BBC meets its diversity targets.
Exactly.
There
you go. The link's back up again now. I've had another search. Try that one. Try that link. That might work.
Let's third time lucky. We're persevering.
We're persevering.
No, not for me anyway. If anybody else can get, nobody can get them to work. It's all of this stuff is going to go up later, and maybe
I'll put all the proper links in the YouTube. Yeah, no worries.
We'll keep it going.
We'll keep going.
So the other reason why this matters is I want people to put their minds back in time to 2011 and how different society was then. We've just had Ricky Gervais this week doing his latest show for Netflix, and he jokes in there that 10 years ago nobody said that women could have cocks because we didn't think we'd have to.
Exactly.
Right, and that's how far back, for 10 years, if nobody in the general populace would have imagined anybody even making a statement that ridiculous. But in the BBC diversity strategy, it identifies 9 areas, and this is 2011: age, disability, gender reassignment, which now we would call transgender, marriage and civil partnership, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion and belief, sex, and sexual orientation.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes on to say that it is committed to fully representing the true diversity of society in all of these areas, both in all of the programming it makes and in everybody who works for it. That's what the BBC diversity policy is. And in order to do so, it's stating that it's justified in discriminating to make sure that this change happens, and not to just try to achieve it organically, but to deliberately engineer the face of BBC output and BBC organisation.
Yeah.
And that transgenderism, along with race, and along with sexual orientation, were the pillars of this, and have been, and still will be. And but this riddles the entire BBC. It defines who the BBC are, and there's nothing wrong with any of these things, but it's the element where the Equality Act and the intentions behind that act have been used to engineer BBC output to ensure that it reflects what it wants society to actually be, whether or not society really is that. Yeah. And then if you get dissonance in society because what society thinks and what the BBC thinks don't match, like, I don't know, Brexit, the credibility of the BBC itself, has massively been damaged in these 11 years.
Oh, absolutely.
But I also want people to think about this in terms of what happened to Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Because 2011, what we're talking season 6.
Yeah.
This came in during season 6.
Yeah, it did.
And if you talk in fandom, and if you talk about wokeness, I think you'll find that most people, well, some people will go on about gay kisses during RTD's era, but I really don't count it as the same thing at all.
No.
That was a much more organic kind of storytelling. But, you know, from season 7, wokeness started to be inserted. And then what happened was, you know, the program makers went back to the BBC and made go, yeah, all right, made an effort, not good enough, do more. Do more.
Yeah,
do more. And that, you know, became the obsession which has driven the organization. And in those 11 years, I mean, 11 years is quite a long time when you're talking about a society, because a quarter of a workforce can move in and out of a workforce in 11 years. So we're talking about people being hired by the BBC who are being educated in their degrees to work at the BBC, and how important the ideology of discriminating to benefit these protected vulnerable characteristics are. You know, so it feeds in from the bottom that everybody joining the BBC is mission aligned, or they don't get a job.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you know, the older lot who might have had a different view, might have sort of said, could we just try and be objective and impartial? They either retired or just found the whole working situation so intolerable they sodded off.
Yeah, they just had to go. They just walked away.
So what we're looking at is institutional capture. The march of a perspective, of an ideology, of a point of view through an organization until it becomes the organization.
Yeah.
And we're gonna hear more about this.
Yeah.
But I want to bear all this in mind, and then think about one last thing about this. 2011, suddenly, these criteria are what are defining what the BBC is making its strategic plans around. So if you want to work at the BBC, if you want to work on a program, if you want to work in the organization, you need to be aligned to these things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And unfortunately, there's none of those categories, but perhaps, you know, that straight white male especially scores in.
Yeah.
But if you are a disabled, transsexual, Islamic, lesbian, then you might get a few more points.
Exactly.
It might seem that hiring you would be a better choice for the sake of the BBC meeting its strategic objective than hiring somebody who was just a bit boring but good at the job.
Yeah. They don't hire on the
and then think about, I'm an aspiring scriptwriter. I want to write for Doctor Who. Think about that. Think about trying to compete to get the option to submit a treatment for a storyline.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I want to get into this more later as well. But if you look at creative industry, I mean, it's not just Doctor Who; it's the entire creative industry all across the Western society and other aspects of global society.
Exactly.
You know, but everything has now become using media to socially engineer societies, and it's always been done to an extent, but the way in which it's now become the obsessive function of what we call the fourth estate is pretty overwhelming, you know. So it's small surprise that came to impact our little Doctor Who fandom. And I mean, let's talk about fandom for a moment, because there isn't any kind of reality I can imagine where at any point in my life I would have described Doctor Who fandom of having a problem with racism or sexism.
No, none at all.
I mean, I'm not to say there's not idiots.
Of course.
And, you know, there are some pretty twisted people on the internet.
Oh, there is indeed. There is indeed.
And I mean, I mentioned at the start of this live stream that I did a lot of admin of some very tough places. I've seen some people who are so sick in how far they are prepared to go. You know,
It's terrible.
Also, a particular kind of person who sees an argument between two groups, but they don't really give a stuff about. But they will then go and cause chaos in both groups, sit back and laugh
Yeah,
because they love to watch the world burn, as the
yeah,
quote from The Dark Knight goes. But it's
absolutely.
true. There
Yeah, it
are
is.
people like that. And the internet, oh my God, they like the internet. So have people said racist, idiotic stuff to anybody of any kind of ethnicity who's been attacked? Yes, probably.
Yeah,
But it means nothing. It certainly never had anything to do with fandom. But you know, this is the other thing about fandom as it used to be, is that I can't remember at any point in the 80s or the 90s or even the early noughties where anybody ever took any interest in my politics in the context of me being a fan of Doctor Who. And I never took
exactly.
any interest in theirs. It was never an issue.
Exactly.
The
Never an issue.
Daleks are a metaphor for out of control fascism. The Cybermen are a metaphor for out of control communism. Take your pick.
Yeah,
You know, the show's always warned about extremist ideologies. And it doesn't
exactly.
matter if you're right wing or left wing. I mean, what is right wing? Right wing happens to think that the state should have less control in the economy, and that the free market should have more say in the development of society. Whereas left is that the state should have more control over society, and the industry should maybe even be state controlled to ensure that the means of production are equitably shared. You know, I mean, yes, there are different viewpoints, but the reality is that people elect one or the other each election cycle, and society gets pulled a bit this way and a bit other way. But as long as no one stays in power for too long, society generally represents a fair balance of both. So
Exactly.
what are we arguing for?
Nothing. Exactly. Exactly. No one knows, do they? Let's be honest. They
You
just
know,
argue for arguing's sake. That's what it's
do
all
do I
about.
think that our future is better governed from inside the island of Great Britain, or do I think that it's better governed from Brussels to answer to it's more sympathetic to the economic demands of Germany? Well, take your choice. Which do you think is a better, more prosperous future? Which one do you
Exactly.
think is going to give a better future to you and your kids? Which one is going to give you more chance of enjoying a comfortable retirement? I don't bloody know. It's a risk.
Exactly. Like everything in life. Everything's a
But
risk in
but we
life.
all decide our risks every minute of every day.
Exactly.
But you
Absolutely, we
know,
do.
we used to not have to. We used to because it used to be about escapism. But
Exactly.
this is
Supposed to be.
also this is also what led to the downfall of Doctor Who creatively. Is that it was escapism, because this environment in which people who were obsessed about these issues became preferential to the BBC, and that having a mindset where these issues were the most important thing in society became essential to work with the BBC. 2 years later was the 50th anniversary of Doctor
Yeah.
Who, and the show came under attack. Could we have Doctor Who and race, please, Gobby?
Oh, yes. Give me a second. Do you watch this link not work either? I bet that one doesn't work either. If not, I'll work hard on it and get
I'm
the other
going
one
to
up.
try. I'll see if I can link it in the chat.
Yeah, because it's I think what I've done is because I've linked them from our chat in Twitter. It's linked the Twitter ones and not the actual ones. So let's have a look. Oh dear.
Doctor Who and race. Now, look, if anybody copy pastes that into a browser, it should work. Oh my God, how do I copy paste? Don't ask me to teach you skills.
No.
But you can't say you haven't been given the link. So there.
There you go. Ta-da!
Right. Okay. Now, when I showed you this link, it was news to you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I'd never heard of it. To be fair, I'm gonna be reading it though. I can guarantee you that.
Now that immediately tells a huge story. This Doctor Who and Race was a book, which was also a web project,
Right.
and it was a collection of essays on the topic of Doctor Who and race.
Right.
Shockingly, so
Terrible.
basically, it is an entire book of essays, all finding different ways to deconstruct Doctor Who and conclude that Doctor Who is, in fact, racist.
Yep.
And this project was led by one woman who was Lindy Orphea, is her name.
Yeah.
And Lindy Orphea isn't just some rando Who fan running a blog talking about race, right? Lindy Orphea is a tenured college professor,
Right.
an expert in critical race theory,
Oh dear. Those words.
whose academic career has been based around studying culture and finding ways to deconstruct it using critical race theory. Now, I've said those words with some emphasis a couple of times, because I'm fairly confident that to at least a good number of people listening in our live stream and in our chat right now, the words critical race theory, it's a bit of an alarm bell.
Yeah.
But that's only because of the impact that the words critical race theory have had now in 2022 after Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
And George Floyd, to the point that now schools across America, in Democrat-run states especially, are facing furious parents attending parent evenings, demanding to know that they are not teaching critical race theory. And these schools are going, oh no, we're not teaching the kids critical race theory. How could you think that, you silly Republicans? But the reality is that no, they're not teaching the kids critical race theory. They're teaching the teachers critical race theory. So they don't have to tell the kids critical race theory when they use it in their classrooms, do they?
Exactly.
Right. And why is that controversial? Because critical race theory, in its most toxic form, declares that everything white is evil.
Exactly.
That anything touched by whiteness has to go.
Yeah.
But whiteness is the single greatest threat to humanity.
Mm-hmm.
That's critical race theory. I mean, I'll talk about it a bit more specifically in a minute, but that is the basis of this book, Doctor Who and Race. Now, I'm just going to look at this one for a moment. I want to find the right one. This blog, by the way, ran until December 12th, 2018, when Yaz and Ryan were cast in Series 11. And after Series 11 had aired, Lindy Orphea shut down the Doctor Who project. But it was incredibly influential in
But yeah, they urge you. They've come for you.
the one place that mattered, the industry. The reason that you haven't heard about it, Goppy, is that it didn't matter to general fandom. But the part of the fandom which is really switched on to the Chris Chibnall era, and are totally ethics and diversity, the kind of people who scream to the sky on Twitter at the very idea that a white man might be cast as Doctor Who again, to these people, you could bet they not only know this book, they probably have this book. They have read this book multiple times. They have researched beyond this book. Because the point about critical race theory is that it's a gateway.
Exactly.
And, you know, I do sound right-wing and reactionary, don't I? It's a gateway.
It's a gateway.
But it is a gateway.
It's exactly
And,
what
you
it
know,
is.
and once an idea comes at you through that door, you can go back through that door.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
when you get young people who, bless them, are lovely. I mean, young people are not polluted by the evils of the world. At least I hope they're not.
Let's
Some
hope
of
not.
some of the poor devils have to live with the most horrendous circumstances.
Absolutely.
And, you know, the world is a far darker place than any episode of Doctor Who could ever possibly portray. I mean, that's absolutely true. But, you know, on the whole, kids are good.
They certainly are.
And when you say good things to kids, they react to them. So when you say good things to kids, like we must all be tolerant, we must all be understanding, we must all, we must all embrace everyone's differences, and that everyone's equal, everyone's equally valid, you know, and we should all just share so everybody can be happy together. When you say those things to kids, then they've got no reason not to feel positively about those messages. And then they go, okay, well, this is great. This is what I believe. Yeah, everyone should be equal and happy. And that's right. And nobody should be mean to anybody. Nobody should be horrible to anyone. And anyone who's horrible to anybody else, well, obviously they're a bad person, and they shouldn't be allowed to do it.
No, they shouldn't. It's wrong.
You know, so
wrong.
That's where they get to. But they then adopt that. They adopt the wording. They adopt the argumentation, they adopt the thought patterning.
Yep.
And they are never at any point encouraged to question the underlying assumptions of what is proposed and done in the name of those good words.
Exactly.
And in critical race theory, they have a word for this, especially relating to white children, white students, and also older white people, but particularly in the context of education, which is deconstruction and reconstruction, meaning taking somebody who is genetically white, deconstructing their mental construct of whiteness, and reconstructing them so that they effectively become advocates for every kind of policy that disadvantages white people wherever possible, because it's only right and proper, because we deserve it.
Yeah.
And in a different context, you know, Scientology or the Moonies or something, we'd call that a cult. We'd call that cult conditioning.
Yeah.
But this is the kind of ideology that critical race theory is. Now, I want to read about that. I want to make sure that I really get across the impact of this novel, this book. So I've actually got a list of contents here. I'm just going to very quickly read through it so that everyone has a flavour of what we're talking about, and think about the impact that this has on Doctor Who. And we're going to show how huge this was as well. We've got more evidence to come up. But part one, the Doctor, his companions and race. The White Doctor. Too brown for a fair praise, the depiction of racial prejudice as cultural heritage in Doctor Who. Conscious colourblindness, unconscious racism in Doctor Who Companions. Think about that title. You're not consciously colourblind, but you're actually racist. I'm talking about Doctor Who Companions. I mean, I don't know who's getting picked on in that. Sarah Jane? I have no idea.
No.
Next one in that section. Doctor Who cricket and race for Peter Davison years.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, but Peter Davison, he's pretty damn cancelled now, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, because he spoke out, didn't I?
Thinking about that poses the question, is the characterisation of the Fifth Doctor itself as an Edwardian cricketer itself a barrier which is limiting Peter's ability to still portray the Fifth Doctor?
Exactly.
Just a question.
It's just a question, isn't it?
But some people clearly do think the Fifth Doctor represents racism.
Yeah.
Humanity as a white metaphor, I'm not too sure what that might be about. You can't change what I look like without consulting me. The shifting racial identity of the Doctor. This is 2013, people.
2013.
Yeah, long before anybody was even really reacting to the wokeness which was getting injected in the show. We're talking about shifting the racial identity of the Doctor. We're talking about some long-term planning here.
Absolutely.
Right, next section, diversity and representation in casting and characterization. No room for old-fashioned cats. Davis era Who and interracial romance. Basically saying Martha was treated badly. I wanted to be. When white boys write black.
Oh dear.
Race and class in the Davis and Moffat eras. God, you could add another whole essay on Chibnall. Baby steps, a modest solution to Asian underrepresentation in Doctor Who. Just in Legends of the Sea Devils, it took a while.
Just a bit.
That was then, this is now, how my perceptions have changed. That's an essay about I used to be a racist, but I'm not now. George Ivanov, one of us is yellow, Dr. Fu Manchu, and the talons of Weng Chiang. Which, by the way, was written by Kate Orman, who many people respect as one of the greatest New Adventures authors.
Yeah. Exactly.
And who I also believe is soon returning to Big Finish.
So they say. So they say.
So, you know, Dr. Fu Manchu, Doctor Who fans may wish to bear in mind that she wrote an essay about how Talons of Wang Chiang is racist. Anyway, Next step, colonialism, imperialism, slavery, and the diaspora. Inventing America, the Aztecs in context. Probably means they're going to say something like, it wasn't that they were mad on human sacrifice and had a massive famine, it was because of the Spanish or something.
Yeah, it'd be the Spanish fault, yeah.
The Ood as a slave race, colonial continuity in the second great and bountiful human empire. Well, look, yeah, I can't argue that Planet of the Ood was about slavery.
Of course it was. It was.
Great. But I think where it falls around is you get somebody going, and because Doctor Who is making these programs about the sinking a great ban of the human empire, it's actually propping up the tired perceptions of British imperialism and the loss of prestige or whatever, you know, it'd be along those lines. Through coloured eyes, an alternative view of post-colonial transition. That's interesting. I don't know quite what that might be referring to. I mean, of course, we did get Demons of the Punjab.
We did indeed.
So I'd have to get a hold of that. But I mean, there are a number of post-colonial transitions that we could be referring to.
Exactly.
But I mean, you could look at the Irish or Cyprus. You know, but I have a fair bet that's going to be talking about partition.
Yeah, it's going to be that. Absolutely going to be that.
Xenophobia, nationalism, and national identities. The allegory of allegory, race, racism, and the summer of 2011. Not quite sure how that connects to Doctor Who, but it must do in some way.
Somehow.
I mean, 2011 was Occupy Wall Street, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was happening then. Yeah.
Doctor Who and the racial state fighting national socialism across time and space. Sounds very worthy.
Very
Religion, racism, and the Church of England in Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Wow.
I mean, the
only time the Church of England gets in Doctor Who is when churches get blown up or they get attacked by vampires. I mean,
usually about that. It's never good for the church, is it? Let's be honest.
Maybe that's it. Maybe we were just failing to understand the ethnic diversity of the hemophores.
Well, there you see. Yeah, that's probably what it was.
And oppressing them with imperialist symbols of the crucifixes. I mean, I just don't know.
Who knows?
Doctor Who is in the Antipodes. Doctor Who short fiction and Australian national identity.
Okay.
Very briefly, actually, in my general reading for this, not connected to this particular link, but I come across the character of Tegan gets some stick from the intersectionalists.
Yeah.
Because in 4 to Doomsday, because you've got the Urbankans who are these robots who kind of look green. I don't quite follow what that was supposed to be about. But there's these robots who are really humans. Well, they're humans programmed into robots. And
Right.
of course you've got the Aboriginals and the Peruvians, and I can't quite remember what all the different groups were. But the point is there's these Aboriginals who do an Aboriginal dance. And then Tegan talks to one of them in an Aboriginal dialect. And then in some way that's been referred to, and another character. So how could you do that? Oh, he's from the Tiwa tribe or Tiva tribe, you know. And then they go, well, that's terribly racist.
Yeah, it's cultural appropriation as well. Don't forget that.
No, but there's over 4,000 dialects of Aboriginal languages.
Of course there is.
Tegan, the character, comes from Brisbane, which is over 2,500 miles from where the Tiva dialect is spoken. So how could you never learned it? The bigot.
I'm sorry to laugh. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Really? How they take it? How they take it that far?
If you don't laugh, what do you do? Cry.
Cry. But, I mean, exactly.
You know, Tegan Javanka, 4 to Doomsday, racist. Stick it in a Twitter search. You'll probably find something.
Oh, there's bound to be something. There's always something.
Anyway, being as we're talking about that, I mean, you know, issues of Australian national identity, and is Doctor Who representing them properly?
Oh, for God's sake, it's a TV show.
Final section. They hate each other's chromosomes, eugenics, and the shifting racial identity of the Daleks. Fair enough. I mean, you can't go wrong talking about Daleks, eugenics, and racial identity, because that is what the Daleks are.
That's what they are. You know, that's exactly what they're about. Oh my God!
You went for the safe option, Christine Larson, and you got away with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet you were feeling quite pleased when you bagged that one out of the hat. Phew, I got this. Excellent, mapping the boundaries of race in the hungry earth, cold blood. Don't be racist to the Silurians.
No, don't. Whatever you do, don't.
You into the ground, but it's only because they're over friendly. Rachel Morgan, savages. Oh no, that was Rachel Morgan did the Hungry Earth. This is the final one, and this was also the key essay by Linda A. Orphea herself. The pièce de résistance. The keystone to the pinnacle of comprehensively trashing Doctor Who as utterly, irredeemably, thoroughly bloody racist. Savages, science, stagism, and the naturalized ascendancy of the not we in Doctor Who.
Okay.
Savages, science, stagism.
Jeez.
Savages, natural people, science, the oppressors with the power of technology. Stagism, well, is that trying to say how the story is presented? It kind of
could be. Possibly.
Not sure. And the naturalized ascendancy of the not we. Now, who is the not we?
Not we.
The not we can't be the scientists, can they?
No.
You know,
that's not allowed. No.
Passive white supremacy.
Oh,
so that's got to be all the not white people.
Exactly.
So it's about the natural ascendancy of the not white people in Doctor Who.
Exactly.
And how do you have a naturalized ascendancy of the not white people without being just a little bit biased about white people?
Just slightly biased. Just
a
little bit
biased. A little bit. Right, now I'm going to top this off with a quote that was said by somebody else about Lindsay Orphea and her essay. So on the topic of savages, science, stagism, and naturalized ascendancy of not we in Doctor Who, so specifically Linda Orphea's essay in the Doctor Who and Race book, This is what Wikipedia says. Doctor Who props up the global ascendancy of the West and the mythos of scientific enlightenment, argues this essay, coupling this with the idea that there is a developmental continuum between primitive and advanced cultures which reifies. Look at that.
Wow, that's a word. That's a word.
European superiority.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go.
Globalized ascendancy of the West, European superiority. What colour is the skin of the indigenous people of Europe, Grubby?
Hold on. This is a trick question. Is it white by any chance?
I'm going to double check.
Yeah.
Yes, white people.
Oh my God, I got it right. Yes, win for me.
Who props up the global ascendancy of white people?
It's mad. Absolutely mad.
You think that's mad? I want people to think about these words. The mythos of scientific enlightenment. Now, science fiction. If you were to say, is something good science fiction? Is something bad science fiction? The way it treats science has something to do with it, doesn't it?
Of course.
And I mean, Star Trek.
Exactly.
You've got this whole imaginary science of warp drive, which has been logically reasoned out to provide an explanation for how the spaceships work, why the spaceships look like they do, why the spaceships are designed like they are, why the people in the series, the characters play the roles that they do, what the jobs of the different roles are, what responsibilities they have to keep the spaceship going, and that's all bollocks. But it's consistent, rational, fictional.
Exactly. Bollocks. Exactly. It makes sense.
The mythos of scientific enlightenment, meaning that Star Trek would be less engaging as a television series if it didn't have an internal universe that it built of why things are and how things work. And of course, Doctor Who's why things are and how things work is wildly different to Star Trek's, which is wildly different to Battlestar Galactica's, which is wildly different to The Expanse, which is wildly different to The Orville, which is not so wildly different to Star Trek. But then again, we go through circle. Then Star Wars, what's that all about? So, I mean, it's not that science fiction all has to be hard sci-fi.
No.
And absolutely, even under Stephen Moffat, Doctor Who at one point really became science fantasy.
Yeah.
Heavy fantasy. But at the same time, there's still some rules.
Exactly.
Who is the Doctor? Who are the Tardis? Who are the Time Lords? Or at least there used to be. But certainly at the time that this was written in 2013, when the authors of Doctor Who and Race were making their case, then all of those things were very true about who the Doctor is, who the Doctor's always been, what the Tardis is, what the Tardis has always been, what the time was all, and this mythos suggests that science makes sense of the universe.
Exactly. Absolutely.
But to Lindsay Orphea, science is a system of thought which has been used to exploit and which has been used to repress. And that the very Western concept of objectivity, of rational analysis, of the supremacy of reason, are all to be brought down so that the people who've been oppressed by them could be liberated.
Yeah.
So when she's talking about the mythos of scientific enlightenment in Doctor Who, she's declaring herself an enemy of science.
Exactly.
She's declaring herself an enemy of what science represents to the human race. She's declaring herself an enemy of the promise of scientific progress to make life better and solve problems.
Absolutely.
That's a bit extreme.
Just a little bit extreme. Yeah, it's just a little bit. Yeah.
And
Smidgen.
But I also invite people to think of these creatives, because again, this isn't just Doctor Who. This same ideology has done this to multiple institutions, right? Why did Star Wars episodes 7 to 9 not make sense? Why did Star Trek Discovery, especially season 3 and 4,
Oh, don't go, don't.
not make any
Oh,
sense?
no,
Why was Batwoman complete nonsense in terms of making any sense? Because to these people, sense does not matter.
exactly.
What matters above all else is that everything reflects the supremacy of the not we against the European worldview and scientific enlightenment.
Amen.
Why are you expecting a logical plot for people who don't value logic?
Exactly. Exactly. You can't. Yeah. Well, there you go.
But this is also about, logically, power.
Yeah.
Because if we're talking about what gets produced as a television show, what gets produced is the locked script.
Yeah.
So whoever can have a hand in the locked script, who has a motive to want to use entertainment to force social change, for whatever reason they think we want to force it, even if it's some really crazy idea about destroying scientific enlightenment, even if they don't know that because they've never questioned the presumptions upon which the nice words like equality and niceness and kindness have been plopped in front of, you know. But is it any surprise what's happened to television, to films?
Not really,
Because
is it?
if you've got control of what goes in the locked script, doesn't matter what anybody else wants to do. It doesn't matter how brilliant the creatives are. And I tell you what, fair hands out to Star Trek Discovery. The sets and the special effects have always been a new level of fantastic. Whether you liked what they made the Klingons look like or not, you know, that was some damn good special effects.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But of course, you know, fans have been looking for something with more substance underneath that and found it sorely lacking. And of course, God,
Yeah.
the money that was spent to make the garbage that was Star Wars episodes 7 through to 9.
Oh, don't even go there. It was terrible.
The
Oh,
money that is spent to make a single episode of Chris Chibnall Doctor Who could have financed an entire independent film. We could have had 30 independent films made by the best of the British filmmakers instead of Chibnall Doctor Who. And I reckon that socially, culturally, we'd probably be a bit better off. But we've got what we got.
exactly.
But I mean,
Unfortunately.
but anyone wondering why the script writing has been so bad, it's because the script writing has ended up enslaved to political purpose. And it's time that we showed that impact, because you never heard of it, Doctor Who fandom never heard of it, but the Hollywood Reporter heard of it.
Yeah. I'll get that up in a
And
minute.
there ain't nobody, baby, who don't read the Hollywood Reporter who's anybody in the industry. So the BBC, whom for many years, Doctor Who had been really their apple in their eye, which they were really very proud of, because, you know, you had black people in it and everything. Then they set out their diversity policy, but then 2 years later, they get called out for being a bunch of white boys trying to write black, making a bunch of racist crap.
Yeah.
And it was seismic. So have we got the Hollywood Reporter link copy? I've just got it here. I'm going to pop it straight in the chat as well.
And I've actually, if it will come up, it should come up on the screen. There you go. I've shared the actual article.
This is the Hollywood Reporter reporting on the publication of Doctor Who and Race. So it is dated May the 30th, 2013. In an upcoming book, academics call the show thunderously racist, highlighting casting choices and even the cricket obsession of a past Doctor. There you are. That's Hollywood. And the BBC straight on the back foot. This was brutal, absolutely brutal, because it
That
affected
was.
BBC and all their friends. And it also had a very serious impact on Stephen Moffat, who at this point had committed the terrible sin of casting an older white man as the next Doctor.
Oh dear, that was bad.
And if you think
Bad
the
choice.
people who've been pressuring for this while Matt Smith was still the Doctor were going to let him get away with that, you had another thing coming. So for the rest of his run as showrunner, Moffat had to defend himself multiple times against accusations of racism and sexism attached to Doctor Who. So I'm just going to slam. I mean, shame we can't just show these on the screen, but here we go. Here is an Express article. That one is from 2015. Doctor Who showhead Stephen Moffat hit back at misogyny claims he described women in Doctor Who aren't like Bond girls. Now, I want to sort of have a little think about the character of Clara, because Clara starts as a companion for Matt Smith. Moffat cast Capaldi that summer, before the 50th broadcast. All this backlash shit starts. Think about how Clara is portrayed in Series 7. Think about fandom talking about how her character changed. And I didn't like her character after it changed, some fans quite often seem to say. Now, in Series 7, I mean, take an episode like Into the Tardis. If anyone was telling me that having Jenna Coleman run around the TARDIS in that summer skirt wasn't deliberate eye candy, I'm just going to say that they were lacking a sufficient amount of male hormones or indeed a pulse. Because I certainly felt that that was a very decorative episode. You know,
of course it was.
I'm not saying I had a problem with it, because I'm honest, I didn't. I mean, that was fine by me. But that was how Clara was originally being portrayed, with Matt Smith as a younger Doctor, a bit of a sexier Doctor, and, you know, maybe playing with. Could she fancy him? Could he? It was there. It wasn't really done that much with it, but it was there, you know. But then also that couldn't happen because the Doctor had this abiding mistrust of who she was, because she was the impossible girl and he was trying to work it out. But I'm just saying that how Clara was portrayed in Series 7, and then this backlash. Look at what happened in Series 8 and 9. It was a complete change of character. Suddenly, she was the most empowered female of them all. Suddenly, she was as doctory as the Doctor. Suddenly, she was standing up to the Doctor. You know, and I mean, I'm not saying that she didn't stand up to Matt Smith's Doctor either. I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not saying I felt that she was a wallflower in Series 7. Clearly, she wasn't. But the writing changed. Why? Because of these criticisms.
Yeah.
Because Moffat is a fat, middle-aged white guy who's got to keep his place in the system.
Yeah.
Who's potentially got people who might want to try and tear him down. And if they can create some sort of scandal and suggest that his ideas are not sufficiently progressive, well, that's a threat. That's a threat. And he had to respond to that threat. But I will say this for Moffat, he has got something more of a spine.
Yeah.
And he did resist. He didn't let himself get completely run over. Looking at you, Chris Chibnall.
Yeah.
So there's that one link. That one's Daily Express. I mean, don't necessarily need to read it. It's just acknowledging it. It's fair. All about, you know, this one's about feminism, because of course we're talking about racial bias, but if we're talking about racial bias, I'm also talking about feminist bias, and I'm also talking about trans bias, because you've got to think about the progress flag, right?
Yeah.
Which is, but you've got the rainbow of the socially acceptable LGB, as it used to be. Yeah,
Used to
and
be.
then like a tank being driven over the lawn, you've got the wedge of the ideological progress running over it. Yeah,
Yep.
and one of
Absolutely.
those is black, is about being black. One of those is about being trans, and one of those is about being a real man-hating feminist. So these forces all see the same thing in Doctor Who. Now, all of these essays proved it, right? This is,
Yep.
and all of the people who've read those essays and have parroted those views and have carried on those views and have made those views more and more dominant until they're absolutely everywhere, which they certainly weren't in 2011 or 2013. You know, I mean, it's a cultural conquest of the institutions, whether it's academia or entertainment industry or other areas like politics or economics.
Yeah.
In fact, bringing in something else here, I actually had a very first-hand experience of critical race theory being applied to everyday life. Because back in 2013, I was a health and social care professional, which I'd done for many years. So I was a specialist in dementia care and palliative care, and I did a degree in health and social care, which I needed to get the next career advancement, which I wanted to do, which was get into the management tier of a care home, so that basically I could spend more time at a desk and less wiping arses.
Indeed.
You do get immune to wiping arses, but
yes,
there is a lot of it.
Yeah.
So academia was quite nice, compared to the morning spent wiping arses. And I did this degree course, foundation degree in health and social care, and it was purely pragmatic. It was purely work based. I wasn't there to improve myself philosophically. I wasn't there to fight the system, man. I was just there to achieve a specific goal to advance my earning potential.
Fair enough.
And also, because then I had to buy a student loan, which I would have to repay because I was working.
Yeah.
Yeah. It had to economically pay for itself. What I was doing was going to have to pay me back
Exactly.
in a reasonable time frame to make the whole thing worth doing. So I was very much there on a pragmatic basis. So you might be quite surprised to learn that 1/4 of my entire university degree was a module that basically was critical race theory.
Right.
It was ethics and diversity. And the purpose of teaching us this was that we could respect the full range of the ethnic and cultural diversity of our service users.
Yep.
Which perfectly reasonable aim. I mean, that sounds lovely, but what I was actually getting was hardcore Marxism. Tories are bad.
Yeah.
And that's because social care in academia is completely conquered. Hands up, we surrender. You wouldn't want to be called.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to work in healthcare and be called a racist.
No.
That's bangos your whole career. That's serious consequence. That's not just something you can just shrug off and walk away from. So, in part, I think they were trying to teach this stuff to protect us. But as far as the lecturers were concerned, it was a mission. And, I mean, this was before UKIP stormed the 2014 Euro elections. This was 3 years before Brexit. So, they were pretty full of themselves. They were pretty confident. I had different thoughts, but considering my purpose of being there, I kept them entirely to myself. And when it came to submitting my essay, I wrote down what they wanted me to write down.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying I was happy with that. I'm not saying it sat well with me, but at the time, that was not a fight I needed to have. But I did think to myself, my God, when these ideas break out into more general society, there's going to be hell to pay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I invite you to think about. I'm talking about a classroom where, okay, I was an older student, and I wasn't the only mature student. So a majority of people in my lectures were going to be somewhere between 18 to 20.
Yep.
And today, those same people are now moving into more senior positions in the health service. Range about 28 to 30, like every other area. So you see how these ideas. While we get on with life and think, well, we know how we look at things, and we settled how we view the world 20 years ago, we just carry on in that vein, and then we see something we don't understand, but then certainly because the media doesn't tell us these things, we don't necessarily see the shape of what's happening in society around us until it's too late to not be able to see it.
Exactly, so true.
So I wanted to picture that this serious blow was struck against the show. Serious enough, the showrunner has to seriously defend himself against allegations that he's a racist and a sexist. Serious enough that Jenna Coleman, Karen Gillan, Peter Capaldi all make statements assuring people that Moffat's fine, he's not racist at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to think about the fact that maybe this wasn't noticed so much in fandom, but think about how it was looking in academia. How the power that these cultural these cultural deconstructors had gained for themselves, that they could force the BBC to change in a way more to their liking.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've got the radical feminists, the radical racists, and because people who obsess about race all day long are racists.
They are.
And you've got the radical trans bi whatever, right? So you've got that stuff. Right? Those are the forces. And they're working together, and they're trying to get any influence and impact on the BBC they can. And then 2015, what happened in 2015 that was really big and changed culture and movies and toppled kings from their empires in the movie industry? What happened in 2015?
Oh God, go on! I can't remember. I was so old.
Me Too.
Oh yeah, the famous hashtag Me Too movement.
Me Too.
Yes, of course. I've forgotten all about that.
Me
I
Too.
forgot about that. Good old
And
Me Too.
That meant that it was Me Too that suddenly were sweeping the industry like a fire.
I remember it. It was terrible. Dangerous
And
times.
that is why, even at that point, it would already have been decided by the BBC that the next Doctor Who would be a woman.
Yep, makes perfect sense.
There's not a question. They weren't going to cast another white man.
Exactly.
They were dangerous in their show poleaxed in the industry as racist and colonial old shite, right? And they think, oh my God, we're actively trying not to be this, but we could lose our golden egg.
Exactly.
So we're going to have to change it to make the people that matter. That's not me and not you. We're just muggins who pay, right? The people who matter, the people's opinions matter. Going to have to make them a bit happier.
Exactly.
Now, people who are familiar with what I've been up to on Twitter since I engaged with Doctor Who fandom will know of my legendary battle with the Doctor Who feminist front.
Indeed.
Although amazingly, there are many people who still don't even believe that the Doctor Who feminist front ever existed. They most certainly did.
Oh, yes.
And what they were was a radical bunch of extreme feminists who were completely aligned with critical race theory and transgenderism.
Yeah.
Right? They were absolutely as progress pride as you could be. Right? And they went around saying that they had influence on the locked scripts. They went around saying that they were a collective of women connected to the production of Doctor Who in various ways, who all had some influence coming from, generally being able to suggest things to directly writing episodes. Now,
Yeah.
some people call this all a fake, which obviously it was a very good fake if it was one, because it wasn't half convincing, and there was a hell of a lot of it. And the Facebook group they had, which they deleted when I made it too hot for them, had 10,000 people on it.
So
that's not a small Facebook group.
That's not a tiny Facebook group, is it?
So what I'm going to suggest is that these forces in academia and culture who were allying together with a purposeful intent of demolishing whiteness in the entertainment industry and replacing it with the ascendancy of a not we, they were all working together to influence Doctor Who. And also in early 2018, there was a particular event at Galley 1 where women who had appeared in the show told their Me Too stories of the industry.
Yes, I remember that.
Examples would include Wendy Padbury. I'm not exactly sure what she said, whether a man exposed herself or whether she was expected to do something to a man connected to her role as Zoe.
Anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the full specifics of everything that was said, and some of it was like, my bum was pinched, I was looked at funny, but some of it seemed to be a bit more significant, a bit more serious.
Yeah.
And off the back of that, the Doctor Who Feminist Front openly advertised for anyone with a Me Too story relating to either the BBC or Big Finish, get in touch with them. Now, there is another aspect of his story which I don't want to get too into, but I think it needs to be mentioned, is that at that time there was a battle between these radical feminists and the gays, by which I mean the gays who had got hold of creative control of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Which we're talking about Big Finish, but we're talking about Russell T Davies, we're talking about Moffat, we're talking about Chibnall, we're talking about Mark Gatiss, we're talking about Nick Briggs, we're about Paul Cornell, and others who would meet from the early 90s in a pub called the Fitzroy Pub.
Yeah.
Which is why Philip Morris calls them the Fitzroy Gang, because basically, by a fortunate happenstance of circumstance, when the show ended in 1989, these bunch of creatives got themselves in a position where they could continue to create new content for Doctor Who under license by the BBC.
Right.
As books, and then there was alternative videos and so forth and so on, and then Big Finish started, so that by the time Russell T Davies got in a position where he had a contract with the BBC to bring Doctor Who back, there was a thriving, officially licensed Doctor Who creative scene, which was dominated by all the same people.
Exactly.
And this was still very much the case in 2015.
Yeah.
When Me Too came out.
Me Too. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of if feminists have got a different vision for the show, and here's the thing: radical man-hating lesbians have got a motive for the Doctor not to be a man.
Yeah.
Because a man is not the object of their desire.
Exactly.
Well, the opposite is true for gay Doctor Who.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
Absolutely.
They want to see a handsome man playing the Doctor. Thank you. And not only that, but the vast majority of women who ever watched Doctor Who quite liked it when he was a handsome man.
Oh well, I mean, look at when David Tennant was in place. I mean, the female.
But obviously, these poor cows are victims of collective unconsciousness. You see, and if they can only awaken to the patriarchal oppression that riddles their entire existences, they would see they only needed Doctor Who to be a woman all along.
Absolutely, old chap, absolutely.
So when this then was going to happen, the nutters really felt. Sorry, did I say nutters? I meant
you did.
The the radical feminist stroke radical critical race theorists stroke radical transgenderists
Yeah,
all
not as easy as to say.
all
To be
felt,
fair,
but victory was certain.
absolutely.
All they had to do was sweep away the old, drive out those tired old stale pale males. You know, and it's not your show anymore, Grandad. And in
Yes.
this the adulation of the crowds and this influx of this brave, wonderful rainbow audience, which the BBC could clutch to its bosom and secure its viewing figures for years and years to come. At least that was what they told me. All they really cared about was clout with their mates.
Exactly. That's all it was about.
And in terms of the Doctor Who feminist front, they, because villains love to monologue,
Absolutely.
just can't resist. This is my evil plan, and those foolish men will never stop me. Yes, that's right. I thought looking at
Yes.
this stealth mode as I was gathering evidence. But no. Go back and careful about that. You know, they truly believed that this was their triumph.
Yeah, they really did.
Now, the question mark over the feminist front, is the feminist front real? You know, how much of creatives who are into all this CRT stuff really having a say in the lock scripts for Doctor Who? One of the things about the feminist front was their friends. And you can tell a lot by someone's friends.
Absolutely.
Who follows who on Twitter? Who likes and retweets on Twitter? Yeah, and it's interesting how Rachel Talalay, was it Talalay in particular, but others as well, definitely were in the close orbit of this group.
Right.
So, you know, is Rachel Talalay my friend when she's taking an interest in my tweets? Well, kinda.
Yeah.
Kinda, you know. So when they were talking about our friend Rachel going to Africa to film, to South Africa to film the scenes for season 11, the Ghost Monument and Rosa were filmed in South Africa.
Yeah, they were.
You know, and then they're going, you know, this is our just telling them this is what she told us about what's happening on set. You know, it was definitely giving me the impression that they were very, very cozy. And other people told me, well, the feminist front themselves is a fiction, but it's a deliberate fiction, so that the people in the production can say what they want to say, can have an audience for so that they can have people who can understand what they're trying to do with the scripts and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was when the feminist front realized that after a particularly heavy dose of slandering me as a white supremacist for simply asking them what they meant and posting their own words in front of them to say, what did you mean by this, ladies? That in itself was white supremacy. How dare I ask them questions? Don't you know that objectivity is evil? Yeah, anyway, I'm probably getting a bit too much into that, but you know, I mean, just the ridiculous of it all. But I mean, but it was one after they realised that they'd been defaming my legal name, but suddenly they finally disappeared, which I also found quite significant. Like, oops, this could actually trace back to us because we've got screenshots of them directly saying that it worked for the BBC and stuff like this. Yeah, we had it all. But you know, they got to define what happened with the Whittaker era. But it's much more than that. Because I feel it's perfectly fair to say that I'm a reasonably smart fella. I could probably, and I am actually a trained screenwriter. I have another degree in screenwriting. You know, and I'm quite capable of writing either a screenplay or a comic strip or a book. in the intellectual property of Doctor Who, which could be the most awesome Doctor Who story. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason that I'm any less able to do that than anybody else, because I've got ideas and I can express myself, and I know how, and I've got confidence as a writer. So why not me? But the answer is very simple. If I roll up to Big Finish with any kind of project, any kind of script, and go, "Hey, can we work together? Would you like to publish my story?" As soon as they know how I voted on June 23rd, 2016, that's it. It's game over.
Yeah,
I'm dead.
yeah,
I'm dead to
true.
them. I'm
Yeah,
dead to
exactly.
them.
Yeah.
If you don't completely ideologically conform, you're out.
Exactly.
And nobody wants to say it,
No, that's true.
but everybody fears it. Nobody wants to admit it.
No, no one does.
Everybody displays it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you don't display it, you're next.
Exactly. That's the thing.
Now, anybody with an understanding of political history, will understand how closely that matches, communism.
Yeah.
Maoism, struggle sessions, where children are indoctrinated into radical Maoism and denounce their parents and see them executed.
Mm.
But it happened to thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people, because when bad ideas get political power, bad things happen and people die. So that's why the culture war is not harmless, because bad ideas lead to bad places.
Exactly.
And it matters that people stand up, and it matters that people tell the simple truth that there is an anti-white bias in Doctor Who. Because at this point, it is impossible for anybody to be hired to create anything licensed for Doctor who does not completely conform to this ideology. It is impossible.
Yeah, no, you're out. Get out.
The only way you can prove that you are part of this ideology is to weave it into what you create.
Yeah.
So it's there.
So it's always there.
And I really need people to understand that the state of the BBC and the way that it's just getting more and more irrational, digging its heels in harder and harder under the threat of a government finally cutting off its money.
Yeah.
The BBC isn't going to back down. The BBC isn't going to get less extreme. The BBC is going to get worse.
Absolutely worse. Absolutely.
So those of us who are saying, "I've had enough, I'm walking away, I'm not going to watch anything more, it's all woke shit," you're right.
Yeah.
There is no way it won't be woke. It is going to be impossible for the BBC to produce a non-woke version of Doctor Who, even if it wanted to.
Yeah, exactly.
And as far as Russell T Davies is concerned, he categorically does not want to.
No.
That's okay. And Russell's a much better storyteller than Chibnall.
Oh God, he's a brilliant storyteller.
And I hope that we are going to get Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
It would be nice.
Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, let's hope so.
I think we can at least hope that with the return of the Gay Mafia to running Doctor Who, story will matter again. We can at least hope for that. But if we're hoping for anything much more than that, it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen. So if anyone's saying Doctor Who's biased, institutionally biased against white people, I've had enough and I'm not going to watch it, you are right. And if that's how you feel, that's what you should do.
Yeah, exactly.
Same time, if you feel that you want to carry on because you want to see where it goes, that's where I'm at. That's where you're at.
That's where I'm at. Yeah.
But we are not kidding ourselves.
No, we're definitely not.
Definitely not kidding ourselves.
No way.
I'd just like to see the show get some respect back.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
It would be great.
It would be
nice.
fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. That would be. But
right, well, how do you feel about that, Dobby? I mean, looking at just from the diversity report 2011, the news articles, and the route we've taken so far, Doctor Who and race, which I think is going to be big news to anybody who's not heard of it.
Oh yeah. A few people in the chat. A few people in the chat have mentioned this is a conversation that we needed to have.
Oh, good. I haven't actually been looking because I've been off in my thoughts. Enjoying the chat, everybody. Yes, I see. Yeah. Well, good. We've got some responses going on here. I'm sorry, I've not been keeping up with it.
And I must give a credit to the chat has been absolutely fantastic. It's been actually enjoyable while listening to you as well. He's reading the chat. It's been a very, very good chat full of sensible,
we're not done
logical.
Yet.
Well, we're not done yet.
We're not done yet. No.
But so far, it's full of very logical and adult people, and it's been a very good chat. Absolutely enjoyable to read it as we're going through. It's been brilliant.
I would like to talk about Joe Martin, Sacha Dhawan, and Nkuti Gatwa.
Yep, crack on.
The first thing is they're all bloody good actors.
They are. They're very, very good actors, all of them.
All of them are significantly better actors than Jodie Whittaker.
Way, way better. Way, way better.
I remind everybody, the facts, as we've been able to establish about Jodie Whittaker's casting, is that there was no proper audition process whatsoever.
That makes perfect sense.
But Chris Chibnall offered it to Olivia Colman.
Yep.
Who, of course, he'd worked with on Broadchurch.
Yep, exactly.
And she said, up yours, Chris. I'm not doing that. I'm off to Hollywood.
Which
and good luck to her.
Yeah,
she's done so much better.
She's just so good.
So much better.
So
career,
good.
But she's just said yes to Chris bloody Chibnall. So, smart girl. Well done, Olivia.
Yeah, that's on the back of that one.
At that point, because Chibnall didn't want to go into the process of an actual open audition, he offered it to his second best mate, the second best actor.
Exactly.
And because she's got a second best brain, she said yes.
Yeah, thought it was a good idea.
Without really any clue of what she was getting into. So, but I'm not going to rib on Jodie Whittaker just because she's holding Miss Castle. She'd never had a job. I mean, we can't change the past.
Yeah, it's done. It's all done.
But in terms of diverse casting, in the Chibnall era, you've got the very key ones. I mean, I'm going to ignore Yaz and Ryan because they're just not characters.
No, they're not. And
they're just not actors.
No, neither of them.
I'm sorry, but they're just not. No. But neither of them ever pulled it off.
No.
And, if it hadn't been for Bradley Walsh with a little bit of charisma, how dire would Series 11 be?
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. Oh,
Bradley, they'll never know what you owed them just for showing up.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want to talk about Spyfall and bringing in Sacha Dhawan. And, anybody who didn't like his characterization of the Master was, of course, immediately denounced as
racist.
Despite the fact that Spyfall Part 2 has now become problematical to the Jodie stands.
Yes, exactly.
Because of the way that the Doctor manipulates his ethnic identity to get him sent to a death camp.
Well, yeah.
I've got other problems with Spyfall, such as the way it takes these two icons of feminist history, either was it Lovegood?
Yeah, it was Lovelace. Was it Lovelace?
Norit Khan. Yeah, and for some reason, just those two women cannot be allowed to know of the Doctor because she's just too amazing, and so the Doctor mind rapes them. Well, nobody else, including the woman's husband, who also met the Doctor, has any issue with knowing about the Doctor in history. But for some reason, and I think it was because the feminists, in their twisted minds, felt that if the Doctor was seen to be helping them, it would diminish their characters, diminish their historical importance. It'd be trying to say they wouldn't have made it without Jodie Whittaker helping them.
Well, no,
I mean, it was something like that, But Sacha Dhawan, brilliant actor. I know he's a brilliant actor. I think when he was playing the own character in the first part of Spyfall, he was acting a lot better than he was acting as a Master.
Yeah.
Because the Master that Chibnall wrote was a pantomime bloody baddie. I mean,
Yeah.
John Sims one was bad enough, but the Missy character had redeemed the master quite a bit,
Oh,
and it
absolutely.
worked.
Oh, it
And
did
it
work.
worked.
Absolutely
I'm not saying I
worked.
was totally on. I mean, when I saw part 8 of, but no, when I saw Depp in Water and that was revealed, I thought, okay. I mean, I'm not saying I was sold immediately, but I definitely was sold on Missy by the end of Moffat's run.
Oh, yeah,
So
she was
you
brilliant.
know, it
Loved
worked.
Missy.
Unfortunately, it was a prototype for a very inferior model which came along
Yes.
afterwards. You know,
Yeah,
but,
sadly. Sadly.
if the first female Doctor had been Michelle Gomez, the history of Doctor Who would be completely different.
Oh, absolutely. Spot on.
And
Absolutely.
the same
spot
is true for Jo Martin.
Yeah.
Now, she's not the industry's greatest actress. I mean, I'm not going to overbig her, you know, but the moment she got on screen in Prisoners of the Jadoon,
Oh, she's owned it. Owned it.
she blew Whittaker away to the edge of the screen.
Absolutely.
She
Absolutely.
just blew her off the screen. Your eyes went to her, your attention was on her, and the switch that she was able to do from Ruth to Fugitive Doctor, that was a great bit of acting.
Oh, it certainly was. It really was good
I'm a
acting.
fair man. Credit where credit
Credit's
is due.
due. Yeah.
That would be hard for anyone to pull off.
Yeah, it would.
Derek Jacobi pulled it off in Utopia.
Yeah.
When he went from what's his name, Yana to the Master.
Yeah.
You know, and the hissing and stuff. And of course, this was a reveal of the Doctor, so it wasn't going to be the same. But Jo Martin was fantastic in that part, right?
Absolutely
So
brilliant.
the night of that episode, I went to social media, like we all do.
Yeah, that's what we do.
And Jo Martin is on social media.
Yep.
Which you can't say for all the Doctor Who actors.
No.
And you know, she made a tweet about how happy she was to be on Doctor Who. Thousands of people replying. It was blowing up like you won't believe. Yep. I made a tweet saying how great she'd done in the performance, how she was a wonderful actor, but I was concerned about what this was going to mean for canon.
Yes.
And for that, I got roasted.
Oh,
and, you know, I mean, that was bad, actually. That was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But it was because I simply dared to say something that wasn't completely aligned with the required narrative of stunning braveness.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I gave us so much credit. I mean, I would never write anything more praising of any actor than I wrote in that tweet to Jo Martin. But what is going to happen to canon? And I think there's also a problem of what was going to happen with Jodie Whittaker, who I don't think was very happy about being acted completely out of her own part. Yeah. Because I mean, I don't think Jodie Whittaker is capable of not knowing how that came across. As much as I don't think much of her intellectual ability, I think she's smart enough to know that.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to talk about Jo Martin some more. Jo Martin is like a lot of actors. In fact, you could pretty much say Jo Martin is like all actors, in that politically they are idiots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, I don't mean this to be mean or cruel. I'm just saying that, you know, whenever they say anything about that has a political dimension, it's pretty much the most stupid thing that you could say. But what it has going for it is that it aligns closely with the approved narrative.
Yep.
Right. So if you look at Jo Martin's tweets, and she talks about, she retweeted the need to smash white supremacy.
Yeah.
Got Pearl Mackie, who are a lovely actress, and I think that what she did with Bill, because that's interesting actually. Let's quickly talk about that, because we talked about Clara and how Clara had to change, become this ultra strong female. But when Clara went, Moffat played two diversity straws. He went for black and lesbian.
Yeah.
And because of that, he didn't have to do the strong independent woman. So because Bill was black and lesbian, as long as she mentioned being a lesbian every episode, she could actually be a fairly normal companion.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't for a moment think that that wasn't Moffat finding a way to work around the restrictions of the expectations being placed upon him. But he recognised, if one diversity child won't do, play two.
Exactly.
I mean, this is how it works. This is
Yeah.
how it works. Back to Joe Martin. So we know that Vinny Patel did not come up with the idea that the fugitive doctor was the Doctor.
Yeah.
We know that because you said it in an interview with Doctor Who magazine, where he said that he would never have dared come up with that, and that was a rewrite of the script done by Chris Chibnall.
Yeah.
And Chris Chibnall has been in Radio Times and has said, but oh no, it was just like a surprise how that story evolved, and really didn't know that it was going to be the Doctor, and I haven't really worked out how that's all going to work yet, but I'm sure I'll come up with something.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like Star Wars, just throw all this fun stuff. We'll have Luke Skywalker, or turn him into an utter failure, and have him spit on everything he ever stood for, and then have him die by the Force at the end of it. Everyone will love it. It will deconstruct a hero.
No.
Right. So he didn't have a plan.
No.
Now, across Timeless Children at the end of Series 12.
Yeah.
And a little bit of Joe Martin, the Dalek one, and then there was of course Flux.
Yeah, well, yeah, Flux. Okay.
Every other time the fugitive Doctor appeared, she was a ghost.
Yeah.
A dream, ghost. A vision, ethereal, unreal. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the character was then written without agency.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Because a character that isn't really there can't impact a story.
No, exactly.
They can't make action. They can't be part of rising action.
No, exactly.
So is it any surprise how even in the parts of the fandom which will treat nice things to Joe Martin, they're not really quite sure where she fits?
Yeah.
I mean, so much so we've just had a comic strip written, about the Doctor trying.
Yeah.
And I bought that comic. I've only read the online synopsis, but it sounds like the specialist fan fiction ever.
Oh God,
to try and make up for the fact that she actually has been treated really badly.
Very badly indeed. Really, if you think about it.
What was the big reveal behind the fugitive Doctor? Well, it's that she was being used as an assassin by a secret organization within the Time Lords, but were mentally dominating her and ruling her every action, but she was a slave.
A slave.
Think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't take long to think that through, does it?
Think about it. I mean, how wonderful and stunning and brave, Chris Chibnall. You wrote a black person as a slave.
Yes, fantastic.
In the field of human achievement, no, it's not registering. It's nowhere.
No,
it's just crap, isn't it?
It is. It's just awful.
So
just awful.
I don't know Joe Martin. I haven't spoken to Joe Martin. I'd be very happy to have a chat with Joe Martin. And I mean, it really isn't about her in any kind of personal sense. I'm just saying that look at how this showrunner trying to create a show to conform to the BBC's diversity policy and the obsession with racial identity politics dominating the entire industry tries to do the right thing and ends up creating
doing the wrong thing.
So naff.
Yeah.
So naff. And
it was terrible.
I'm going to give Vidya a shout because she is in the channel. So anybody who's not subscribed to Vidya's channel,
you've got to
immediately you go to Vidya's channel and you watch all of her content. After that,
brilliant.
You're fit to talk. right? Because what she has done, and I should mention that Vidyut is of Indian ethnicity and is resident in the Indian subcontinent.
Yeah.
So when she deconstructed Demons of the Punjab,
Oh, that was stunning. That was stunning.
all I'm going to say is that Vinay Patel's bottom got a little bit spanked.
Yeah.
Could have done better. You know, my God, was this actually some racist and colonialist stuff you regurgitated us and expecting us not to notice? So, and I get another point of Vidyut's criticising this obsession with race identity politics and how it's framed Doctor Who was her criticism of Rosa, which again, I hope she doesn't mind me talking about this, but she talks about the bus scene in Rosa, right? So you've got Jodie Whittaker's Doctor Who, the first whitest, greatest, femalist Doctor, right? And
Yeah.
she needs to prove how much of a racial ally she is, right? So if the Doctor doesn't come out of this story glowing with anti-racist credibility, the story would have failed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the main purpose. And in order to achieve that main purpose, a narrative is crafted where two privileged middle-aged white people being helped by their unthinking yes men of ethnically diverse young companions engineer a situation to guarantee that a black woman is subject to racist abuse, because if they do not do that, black people will never have any rights at all in the future. That is the plot of Rosa.
Yeah, that is it. That's the plot. The simple plot.
Now, can we say white savior complex?
Yeah, because that's what
I
it
mean,
was.
I can criticize racial in so many ways, you know, but I mean, I'm not about the video, not about the villain, you know, but oh my God, you know, the greaser space racist. That took so much work to come up with that.
Yeah. Class writing.
I think about the stories that you could have written in that setting. You know,
How you could have done it in so many different
it
ways.
could have been so good.
It could have been absolutely stunning.
You know, I mean, I'm not a woke progressive. Hello, Lee. Hello, problem being. You've been missing a great one here. We're really ripping it up. Where are we? Hour and a half in. We're nearly 2 hours in. We're
nearly
still
2
rolling.
hours.
Nearly 2 hours in. We're still rolling. But there's so many different ways you could have done that damn story.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? So what I want to sum up here is that the Chibnall era of Doctor Who, in the critical analysis, is just going to get worse and worse and be less and less respected as time goes on.
Absolutely.
To the point where the BBC will be apologising for making it. Because it is that bad, actually.
It is that bad. It is bad.
But now we have RTD and now we have Shooty coming in.
Yep.
Now, I'm a Doctor Who fan. Can't help it.
No, that's what it is.
It's just how I've always been. From my very earliest memories of bits of Planet of the Spiders sitting on my mum's knee.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it goes deep. It goes back. Right. So I'm never going to want anything but good things for Doctor Who. I'm always going to want the show to be able to continue. I'm always going to want for there to be a future for Doctor Who.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I firmly believe that the BBC have absolutely comprehensively failed to be good stewards of the show. They don't deserve the franchise.
No, they don't.
And something has got to be done to liberate fandom from the oppression of this political policing of who can be creative for the show. Something's got to change about that. I don't know how we get there, but I mean, at least starting to talk about it is going to be part of it. And I think here's a challenge for anybody listening to this: find any Doctor Who creative on social media and ask them to disagree with anything any single statement from the book Doctor Who and Race.
Yeah.
You will not be able to get any of them to disagree with a single solitary word. And there is your anti-white bias in Doctor Who.
Amen to that.
Yeah, there you are.
There you go.
So, and it's not racist to say that these people are obsessed with race and some of them are racists.
In fact, yeah, absolutely racist.
That's not racist to say that about them. It's
No.
not racist to say that this policy has been in place, that these things have happened, that we have a history, a timeline that we can follow, that shows us how we got to Doctor Who for everybody, which didn't even think of itself in terms of race or sexual politics at all, to a Doctor Who which has threatened to be only for the chosen few.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
That's how we got there.
That's how we got here. And that's how we got here.
And, hey, cry on, white boy, suck it up.
Yeah.
I'm sucking, I'm not saying I even care.
No.
Right, because I'm more than strong enough as a spiritual entity, right, not to let anybody else's opinion of white people impact my being.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe that's because I believe in those old Enlightenment values.
Yeah.
But they can actually do something for you to allow you to ascend as a human being, to be greater than you ever were before, to be better than the sum of your parts, and certainly better than any ignorant stupidity like racism.
Exactly. Absolutely spot on.
Now, there's one last aspect that I particularly want to talk about here. Well, I think we probably can say that we've pretty much covered the topic. Now,
yeah,
I'm going to talk about two specific YouTubers. And the reason is that I want to show people something, and it's not possible for me to do it while keeping them anonymous.
Fair enough.
But I want to make it very, very clear. I would not endorse anybody in any way harassing these people.
Yeah.
They don't, and actually, they don't deserve it.
No.
Because as far as it goes, they are both relatively innocent.
Right.
There are two video essays that were created about the Timeless Children. Between the two of them, they have about 10,000 views, and they're long-form video essays. They're very academic. There's a lot of big words, and big words are always used by deceptive people to hide their meaning.
Yeah.
Because why use big words when a straight one will do? Well, because I only want those who know the big words to understand me.
Yes.
So, always beware of big words when they're used gratuitously. But the point is that these are quite innocent people, right? They're university students, and they're not involved in making Doctor Who. They're fans. But the reason why these videos matter is that one of them deconstructs Timeless Children in terms of race, and the other one deconstructs Timeless Children in terms of whiteness, in terms of white supremacy, in terms of patriarchy.
Yeah.
So for one of them is saying how Timeless Children addresses the individual's notion of race as associated with the Doctor, and the other one says about how the whole show is a white supremacy shit pit. That's basically what they're saying. They're saying it obviously a lot more refined than that, but I haven't got time to go over what amounts to a good hour of video between the two of them. And you can find these people. They're easy to find. They're on social media as themselves. They're not hiding. And this is why in particular I don't want them to have any negative experience. Of course, I don't control the world, so if something does happen, I can only say what I want, right? The first one, you've got it, you can show it.
Got it showing.
Right. Richard, bless him. He's as pale as they come, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I actually, God help me, I inflicted this upon myself again. I've re-listened to both of these essays in the past 24 hours, just so I could be sure that I remind myself what's in them. And Richard very much strikes me as a young Chris Chibnall.
Right.
You know that footage where Chibnall goes on about boring corridors?
Oh, yeah.
Peas in the pod.
Fair enough.
Clones.
Clones.
Very, very similar vibe, right? But I want you to understand that Richard is a good person, at least in terms of how he sees himself, sees his place in the world, right?
Yeah.
What's happened to Richard is that he's got into the educational system, and he's clearly picking a career which is 100% based on having an academic career. So he's completely absorbed the program.
Yeah.
So he is a perfect example of the deconstructed and reconstructed white ally.
Yep.
So what his view of the Timeless Children, this video and the other video, were both significantly liked and interacted with by Doctor Who creatives.
Yay.
Especially from Big Finish. So none of them said they disagreed with any of it.
No.
So here you go again. Richard, bless him, is a white guy who is completely biased against white people. And that is what he's chosen to believe. And that is his God-given right.
Absolutely.
Yeah? But everybody who agrees with him believes the same thing.
Amazing that, isn't it? What a coincidence.
Let's have a look at the other one.
I'll get the other one up. Hold on. Give me a couple of seconds. Stop. Get rid of that. Go away. Let's get that. Right, and that's this one.
This is Chris Chibnall versus the British Empire by Claudia Bolin.
Just gotta wait for the advert to disappear so I can share it.
Oh well, you're doing fine. Now.
Yes, I'm getting the hang. By the end of it, I'm getting the hang of it.
Claudia's essay is everything about the Time Lords being everything that is wrong with Western society.
Classic.
And therefore they have to be destroyed. Only by the destruction of the Time Lords could Doctor Who be liberated from the oppression of their tyrannical worldview. Only then could the full flower of diversity spread throughout the Doctor Who universe, free of the oppressive patriarchy of that old bastard Rassilon.
There you go.
Look, I mean, it's a lovely argument.
It's an interesting, yeah.
It's a flawed argument, badly.
Yeah.
But it's a lovely argument. I just put a great deal of effort. 45 minutes.
That's
on how Doctor Who is a load of colonial racist shit, and only by destroying the canon of the show can the show itself be redeemed.
Well, yeah, obviously.
When was this? This would have been sometime summer 2020. 7 years after Doctor Who and Race.
Yeah.
Those ideas have so completely disseminated into the pro agenda, BBC View, but that is what they think the show is. And they think that anything that diminishes the whiteness and maleness or straightness of Doctor Who is for those people's own good. If you went ahead in blissful, undeconstructed ignorance, just being happy watching Doctor Who for 54 years as a white male in the lead, well, you had your fun, but it's time you've got to face your responsibilities to the supremacy of the not we.
Exactly,
and you must surrender the privilege of your whiteness and let go of the symbols which you've held on to. For only then could you be redeemed of your intrinsic white guilt.
Amen.
Well, if you want to put that, I don't think I'd say amen at the end of that. But,
yeah, sarcasm.
That's where they're coming from. Now,
yes.
Richard seems relatively sensible. It's hard to tell with leftists because they all get set off.
Yeah.
So it's the ones that calm down easiest, I think, are the most sensible ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Claudia,
Nah,
not so much.
Nah,
Not so much.
No.
And they both respond considerably to the keyword search Corbyn.
Cool. Yeah.
Which is interesting.
It is.
Because let's go back to Doctor Who and race.
Yep.
And we're talking about critical race theory.
Oh,
now,
those lovely 3 words.
You can exchange the middle word, and it's the same thing. So I could take critical race theory. I could call it critical queer theory.
Yep.
Right. I could take critical race theory, and I can call it critical class theory.
Yep.
Right. I could take critical race theory, and I can call it critical Marxist theory, because it's all the same thing.
All the same thing.
It's just putting the same tart in a different dress. It's all the same key idea, which is that the world is divided into 2 types of people: the oppressors and the oppressed.
Yep.
And that the only way to stop the tyranny of the oppressors is for the oppressed to awaken to understanding that they are oppressed. Because once they understand that they are oppressed, they shall rise up and throw down the corrupt old order and bring in a new people's utopia.
Yay!
If I sound tired and weary of that old shit, it's because I'm very tired and weary of that old shit. But it's the new expression of the same.
Exactly the same thing.
Only now, instead of the workers who produce the goods and the owners who profit from the goods, as Vidget just there piped up, I just saw, is a caste system for victimhood. Yes, it's a hierarchy of victims, right? Which category are you in? Are you disabled? Are you black? Are you gay? Are you female? Are you trans? You know, how many of these categories can you score? Because the more you score, the higher you're standing in society. The less you score, the worse you're standing in society. And so therefore, the people who get most ignored are the majority, which is actually the white people.
Yep.
That's that's where that goes. But it could have been expressed in terms of jobs. It could have been expressed in terms of class, but it's just expressed in terms of race, because race is the weapon being used to destabilize the society that the people behind these ideas don't like very much. Which brings us to the BBC and China. Now, the one really good thing about RTD coming back, Sony taking over, and Shooter Gatwa being cast, is that it has completely torpedoed the BBC's business relationship with the Chinese government regarding Doctor Who.
Yeah, because they went out.
A relationship that most of the fandom didn't even really realise existed. But the BBC has an annual income of £400 billion. 150 billion of that comes from sales from BBC Studios, BBC Enterprises, selling BBC product around the world. BBC has got 3 main buyers for its products: HBO, ZDF, which is German state television. And in 2017, it was announced a brand new deal with the Shanghai Media Group.
Yeah, I remember that being announced.
Which is a directly controlled operation of the Chinese Communist Party in power.
Exactly.
So, in 2017, the BBC did a deal with China whereby China would pay them lots of money and the BBC would sell them Doctor Who, along with quite a bit of other content.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, in this deal, the Chinese actually funded the production of Series 11.
Yeah.
They agreed to buy outright the production of Series 11 with options for first refusal for the next 5 years.
Yeah. I remember that.
Now, this may not seem all that significant, but it's significant in two ways. Number one, Christmas.
Yeah.
Do you think the Chinese state is going to fund an episode of a TV show about Christmas?
Absolutely not.
Why can't we have Christmas Doctor Who anymore?
Ran out of
Because the
ideas,
BBC's
apparently.
trying to wring millions of pounds from communists. That's why not.
Yep.
It's only because that deal is now over that we might get Christmas again in Doctor Who.
Yep.
We might. But,
Might.
you know, it's a bit Christian.
It's it. Yeah.
It's a bit
yeah.
European supremacist.
Yeah.
It's Christmas, well, you know, it's a bit white.
It's a bit too
So
white, isn't it? Yeah.
maybe
no.
not. You know, maybe
No,
not.
no.
We just don't know. But at least there's a chance. The other factor is a very positive factor in the end of the Chinese deal is that nobody asked what the Chinese were doing with it.
Exactly.
Do you seriously think that the Chinese Communist state takes BBC product and just shows it on Chinese state television?
No.
Well, you might think that, but you'd be
But it
very
doesn't.
wrong.
Yeah.
The only place the BBC showed the CCP showed the BBC content it purchased was on Youku.
Yep. Youku.
Youku is a completely state-owned and state-controlled YouTube.
Fair enough.
By putting Western content on Youku, the Chinese state was able to monitor who liked it.
Exactly.
So why then make Doctor Who with Chinese money, which is covered in rainbows? Because China isn't exactly LGBT friendly. It's certainly very racist.
Absolutely.
So why do that? Why do that? Because
Good
it
question.
allowed them to identify internal sympathizers.
Ah.
The Chinese government paid the BBC millions of pounds a year to use BBC output to identify Chinese citizens to mark for repression. And
Classic.
nobody in the BBC noticed. Nobody in the BBC cared. Nobody in our media cared. Nobody wanted to speak up about it. I actually tried. I tried to get some media to pick up the story and investigate. I want you to think about how sick that is.
It's terrible.
And they're building this progressive audience at the same time that they're selling the product to people who are selling those people out.
It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
It ticked a lot of the boxes for the diversity plan.
Oh yeah.
Terrible, really terrible.
It is. It's awful. Disgusting.
But let's finish.
Yes.
Let's talk about Nukuti.
Yes.
Let's talk about every actor who has had the part who is alive. Right. Tom Baker is a darling.
Oh
and
yes.
Nobody's going to say anything to Tom Baker. All he has to do is carry on being Tom Baker, and he's fine.
Yeah.
Right. Pete Davidson is cancelled.
Yeah, because he spoke out.
There's no chance. There's just no chance. Pete Davidson is cancelled. He's gone. He's not going to be allowed back because he questioned what was being done to boys.
Exactly.
He's out. He's gone.
He's gone. He's finished.
Colin and Sylvester love the Czechs.
Oh yeah, absolutely love the Czechs.
Right. They are not going to speak out of turn in any way whatsoever. Chris Eccleston, he loves his mortgage.
Exactly. He loves getting paid.
David Tennant is left of Gordon Brown for sure.
Oh yeah.
Matt Smith, There is a lot of political stuff, Matt Smith. He's not about to start now.
No.
Peter Capaldi, clearly a socialist.
Yeah.
There's no, he's very kind, he's a very lovely man. He's an absolutely wonderful human being, right?
Fantastic man.
And then Jodie Whittaker.
Oh yeah.
So forget it, right? If you think there was any actor attached to the show who gives a shit about anti-white bias in the show, there isn't one.
Exactly.
There isn't one.
No
one's going to object. No one's going to want those cushy numbers sat in that audio booth to come to an end.
No.
Even if they actually did have any issue with it, and believe you me, they don't.
No.
They don't.
No.
So the traditional fandom has no allies.
No. None
Not
whatsoever.
in talent, not in the creatives, and not in the people putting up the money to dictate the future direction of the show. And the world changed, and it can't go backwards. I understand. No. And as far as this Doctor goes, I see great potential in Ncuti.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
Ultimately, it will depend on the scripts.
Yeah.
But Capaldi had bad scripts, and he was able to elevate them.
Absolutely.
Jodie had bad scripts, and she sank them worse.
Yeah.
But Ncuti has charisma.
Oh God, yeah.
He's got sparkle. He's got energy. He's got. He's a gorgeous man.
Yeah.
And I'm a straight man, but I still know what a gorgeous man is like.
Oh yeah.
And if I could pull off that chair stand and roller disco, I'd wear it.
Oh yeah. Amen. I've been doing that as well. Absolutely.
I've got everything positive to think about Ncuti, but I don't expect Ncuti. I don't expect him in any way to not completely conform.
No, absolutely, he will conform.
Well, I mean, from what he said in his unscripted BAFTA interviews, as opposed to his one scripted BAFTA interview,
yeah,
I mean, it's very clear, But as far as Shooting Gap was concerned, more diversity, more representation, and more people that look exactly like you, so that you can relate to something, which is just nonsense. But there you are.
Yes, it's ridiculous.
That's all he's going to be in favour of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I really hope that the show is good. At least good enough, but we don't have to rip it apart for failings of basic television production like we did for Kibble Era. I really hope it is better than that.
Absolutely.
I hope that we can at least get something out of every episode, and I don't have an issue with there being something for everybody in every episode.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't work, that will be it.
Yeah, I think
because what is not going to happen is there is no way any of this will get reversed by the BBC in any way in terms of. But look, I'm not saying that the storyline couldn't be fixed. I'm not saying the Time Lords couldn't be brought back. I'm not saying the Time Lord children could be fixed. But that still doesn't change the anti-white bias in Doctor Who. It won't remove it.
No, it won't.
So there isn't a script fix for the Chibnall era that will make it better. Even if Russell T Davies does tidy up the canon to try and make it all make sense, I personally would rather it was a total reboot, but it clearly isn't quite that.
No. It's
But whatever happens, it's not Ncuti Gatwa's fault in any way.
No, it's not.
He's an actor doing a job, a good actor. I hope he does a good job.
And I do. I hope he.
And it's the same for Joe Martin. It's the same for Sacha Dhawan. It's the same for Pearl Mackie. It's the same for Freema Agyeman. It's the same for Noel Clarke. Well, I was a bit weird, Noel Clarke. But we just want a good sci-fi show.
that entertains.
Yeah, and
That's all
instead,
we want.
I mean, but in order for there to be a chance for people just to understand what's going on with their sci-fi show, we've had to take coming up to 2.5 hours to talk about BBC internal policies
Yeah,
and powerful books that influenced academia and forced the BBC to change direction.
yeah.
I'd like to know, chat, is there anybody in chat who doesn't believe there is an anti-white bias in Doctor Who that cannot be removed? Or have we made the case? Is it self-evident? Is it unarguable and must be accepted as fact so that brave people like Richard Lloyd in that video he made can actually say having an anti-white bias is good. It's being done for good reasons. And I'm willing to state those arguments and defend them. I think he's totally wrong. I think he's very misguided. I think that the Enlightenment values of shared of shared common laws, but liberate everybody, is the only way to really have an anti-racist society.
Yeah.
And the obsessing with racial identity and past racial pain will only ever make things worse in the short, medium, and long run.
Absolutely.
And I think that, you know, at 50 years old, I'm probably a bit too late for me to modify my views on that. I think my mind is made up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm 53, so you know, I'm just catching up with the chat, which is
it's been great.
The chat's been brilliant.
When do we get a Jewish doctor? Oh my God, Lee.
Well, you knew Lee was going to come up with that.
Well, I mean, but Lee's right in the inherent anti-Semitism behind race identity. It all flows into one another. Because who's the whitest of them all? Who's the richest of them all? Who controls the money? Who are the most oppressive racial group on the planet? Who gets the shitty stick every single time?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you know, anti-Jewishness is fine. You can dunk on Palestine. You're not going to get cancelled from Big Finish for that.
Well, yeah.
Not. You know, there's just no way.
It's never going to happen.
Because at the end of the day, you know, the view of the political left is that the state of Israel should not exist.
Yes, which is a load of
rubbish. They can dance around it in all sorts of different ways, but that is ultimately what they believe.
Absolutely. Wow.
I think it's time to wind this up.
I think we have had what can only be described as an awesome stream. That was really enjoyable. And as long as the message gets through, and we've, as I said, people have said that it's about time somebody had a discussion like this to bring things to the front and to give everybody a different way of looking at things.
I just want to give everybody a fair chance.
Exactly.
And to do that means recognizing that the BBC diversity policy exists, it's real, and it's funded by 100 million quid a year. It's not a fantasy.
No. It's
impossible to rationally or logically analyze what that means, other than it's okay to be biased against white people.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying it's not even that I got a problem with it. You know, I believe in a free society, the best argument wins.
Yes,
so
exactly.
You should always be willing to argue your beliefs.
Exactly.
Because that's how you know that you're free.
Exactly. That's the only way to be free.
But that's it. Anyway, that's it. We can't just say we're finishing and do another half an hour. That is it.
Yeah, we're done. Finished. End of.
Good night.
Yeah, good night.
Bye. I'm leaving now. But if you ask nicely, I might even come back another time.
Oh, I'm sure we could do another one at a later again, because it's this has been very very enjoyable. Very
Good night, everybody.
and good night to you all. Thank you so much for joining in the stream. Thank you for an excellent chat. The chat has been a pleasure to read as well as we've been going along. Thank you all.
And yes, you can come and find me, new listeners, because who knows who will listen to this in the future. John the White One on Twitter. I'm not hard to find, but woe betide you who haven't watched the bloody video.
And with that, we shall bring it to a close. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.